Imagine scoring an unforgettable hat trick in a 5-1 win and hitting your 25th goal for England at just 24 years old. That's the magic of Bobby Charlton. And did you know he became England's second most capped player ever after the iconic Billy Wright? Stick around as we dive into the brilliance that defines Sir Bobby Charlton. And at the end of the video, we'll compare how the footballing world has changed over the past 70 years. Born on October 11, 1937 in Ashington, Northumberland, Sir Bobby Charlton was part of a working-class family in a coal mining town. The second of three sons to Robert and Sissy Charlton, he was blessed by football inspiration, with famous relatives on his mother's side. His uncles, Stan Milburn, Jim Milburn, George Milburn, and Jack Milburn, as well as his mother's cousin, the great Jackie Milburn of Newcastle United and England, were all professional footballers. Charlton credited much of his early career growth to his grandfather Tanner and his mother Sissy, as they helped nurture his extraordinary talent on the football pitch. His older brother Jack primarily followed a career as a miner, but ultimately ended up transitioning to become a professional footballer with Leeds United after a brief time working as a policeman. This ancestral linking to football legends and the backing of his grandfather and mother played a major role in shaping Bobby's path to becoming one of England's greatest football legends. Throughout his youth, he was obsessed with playing football, and on February 9, 1953, early talent Bobby Charlton, then a student at Bedlington Grammar School, caught the interest of Manchester United chief scout Joe Armstrong while playing for East Northumberland schools. This cleared the opening for Charlton's involvement with the legendary Busby Babes, a group of talented footballers who arose through the Manchester United system in the 1940s, 1950s, and 1960s, as part of Matt Busby's post-World War II rebuilding plan. At just 19 years old, Charlton had an outstanding debut season for Manchester United in the 1953-54 season, playing in 17 matches and scoring twice on his debut. His goal count reached 12 through all competitions, counting an unforgettable hat trick in a 5-1 away win over Charlton Athletic. Despite his early success, Charlton faced tragedy at the peak of his playing career, the harrowing Munich air disaster of 1958. After a 3-3 draw against Red Star Belgrade of Yugoslavia in the European Cup, the Manchester United team were flying back home to Manchester, but had to stop off at Munich Rhein Airport for refueling. When departing, the plane had trouble taking off. Air travel was still quite risky business at the time, but the team were keen to not miss any fixtures back in England. Therefore, takeoff was attempted twice more, with the second attempt being another aborted takeoff. However, on the third takeoff attempt, the plane crashed into the fence at the end of the runway, as the pilots realized the plane wasn't going fast enough for flight too late into the run. Charlton survived the disaster, but experienced cuts to his head and serious shock, staying a week in the hospital. Sadly, 7 of his colleagues, including Pegg and Taylor, lost their lives in the tragic accident. After he endured the Munich air disaster, Bobby Charlton showed extraordinary spirit, revisiting the football pitch first in casual kickouts with native youths, and after in an exercise match. At first feeling lazy, Charlton rapidly recovered his vigor, stating his wish to play professionally again. He quickly recovered to top form and garnered much success throughout his international career. He was part of the England squad for the 1962 World Cup in Chile and scored his 25th goal for England in the group stage success over Argentina. However, England were eliminated in the quarterfinals by Brazil, who went on to win the tournament. 4 years later, undoubtedly the pinnacle of his career and perhaps the greatest moment in English football history, the 1966 World Cup victory. He played a crucial role in the England squad, scoring 3 goals in the tournament and receiving only his second ever yellow card in their match against Argentina, showing just how committed he was to winning the tournament. This iconic feat caused massive celebrations throughout the country and changed Bobby's status from a great to a legend. Nearly 60 years later, it remains England's one and only World Cup victory. During the Euros of 1968, Charlton's 75th English appearance coincided with a victory against Northern Ireland, and he later became England's second most capped player after Billy Wright. His goal against Sweden marked his 45th, breaking the previous record held by Jimmy Greaves. Throughout the tournament, he broke many records, and the English team managed to reach the semi-finals of the European Championships. Just a year later, in 1969, Bobby was nominated as an OBE for his assistance to football, and in 1970, he earned his 100th England cap on April 21st against Northern Ireland. Later retiring as a player, Bobby Charlton looked into football management, taking on the role of manager at Preston North End in 1973. During his period, he hired previous teammate Nobby Stiles as a player coach. In the 1975-76 spell, Charlton left Preston. Following his leaving, he had short-term playing times with Australian clubs Newcastle KB United, Waterford United, Perth Azuri, and Blacktown City. Charlton later joined Wigan Athletic as a director and briefly worked as a caretaker manager in 1983. He also played in South Africa, was involved in numerous business projects including travel, jewelry, and hampers, and ran soccer schools internationally in the UK, US, Canada, Australia, and China. In 1984, he was elected a member of the board of directors at Manchester United. Sir Bobby Charlton enthusiastically supported Manchester's bids for the 1996 and 2000 Olympic Games and the 2002 Commonwealth Games. He accepted knighthood in 1994 and was with the inaugural inductees to the English Football Hall of Fame in 2002. Aside from football, Charlton was a loving man. He met his partner Norma Ball in 1959, and they married in 1961. The pair had two daughters, Suzanne and Andrea. Suzanne, who became a BBC weather analyst in the 1990s, gave birth to a grandson titled Robert in pride of his grandfather. Sadly, on October 21, 2023, at the age of 86, the footballing icon passed away. His passing, classed as accidental, was caused by trauma to the lungs, a fall, and dementia. The funeral, held on November 13th, included a main ceremony at Manchester Cathedral, joined by many VIPs, including Prince William and football icon Alex Ferguson. He will forever be remembered as a great man who changed the way football was played. Now we'll take a look at how the world of football has evolved throughout the span of Sir Bobby Charlton's iconic career. The role of footballers in the modern world has seen considerable change over the years. In the mid-20th century, when Sir Bobby Charlton started his football career, the economic dynamics of the game were different. Footballers of that time were not receiving the huge salaries and sponsorship deals that outlined the modern football landscape. The financial incentives related to being a professional footballer were, by comparison, uncertain. During Charlton's playing days in the 1950s and 1960s, footballers made little of what their modern colleagues command. Wages were limited by small broadcasting profit, uncertain sponsorship contracts, and the non-appearance of the massive commercialization that describes today's football business. Players frequently had to increase their earnings through off-season jobs, a far cry from the full-time promise expected of current players. If you're enjoying the video and would like to see more great football content in the future, make sure to hit that subscribe button as we'll be posting a new video every week. Back to the video. Unlike today, players during the 1950s and 60s typically spent the greater part of their careers at a single club due to transfer fees being low compared to today's sky-high sums. Loyalty to a club was a key part of the game, and players made lasting relationships with the fans and community. The idea of partners moving to other clubs for considerable financial profits was nowhere near as common as it is today. The balance of power between players and clubs was also skewed deeply towards the clubs. Negotiations were much quicker, and players had less power in agreeing to favorable terms. The lack of managers, who now play a key role in discussing agreements and endorsements, significantly reduced the power players from that period had on contract terms. Fast forward to the present day, and the game has changed into a multi-billion-dollar trade. Broadcast contracts, international sponsorship deals, and numerous commercial openings have thrown players' incomes to extraordinary heights. The rise of social media has turned footballers into influencers, exponentially raising their market capability and personal brand worth. The globalization of football has enlarged the financial stakes. Matches are aired internationally, drawing enormous viewers and profitable television deals. The arrival of rich owners and increasing rivalry for top talent have pushed up player wages and moved fees to heights unthinkable in Charlton's playing days. In the modern football landscape, players hold major power. Agents talk multi-million-dollar deals, endorsement contracts, and image rights. Transfers involving excessive fees are common, and players can cleverly select clubs based on business incentives, job aims, or lifestyle preferences. The progression of the football business, as represented by the gap between Sir Bobby Charlton's era and the current game, is proof of the transformative control of globalization and commercialization. The financial differences highlight the enormous shift in football's financial landscape, highlighting how the game has changed from a passion-driven quest to a high-stakes, profitable career. Speaking of which, the evolution of the beautiful game has also been largely due to major changes in technological developments. Check out this video where we discover just how technology has impacted football.